um, retired Sergeant De Leon, 2014. Today is Saturday. We're getting into a new season. And so here's one of my podcasts that I am deploying so that way um, I could advocate for what I am claiming. All right. So I have some previous podcasts if you guys are interested in looking at and hearing. I'm doing one a day until I can get the service that I need from the Veterans Health Administration, the Army, and from our dignitaries who are ultimately in charge. They are the gatekeepers of, um, you know, getting your information if you have a claim and addressing it. All right. Now, in this part, I have been trying not to anymore to pour my heart out to explain to every single person about why and what I need for my care, which has been medically neglected through the VA. All right. Of course, I get every opinion in the book from everyone about my status, my situation, and but yet nothing is followed through with. Nothing gets done. So in this podcast, I'm going to free the brain. Free the brain. All right. We got to. Um, it's what has been going on with my disability. All right. With what has been going on with my disability over the 8 to 10 years that I have been claiming this disability. Um, I've learned a lot. This has been a master's degree in learning about how to deal with people, how to deal with initiating leadership, how to deal with policies and procedures, uh, 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 um, how to interpret them and how they are applicable. So, I didn't have to go to a 4-year university to learn what I've learned. I did it because it's something that is happening to me. And this is one of my big points for today. Okay, and this is why I'm in the situation that I'm in because of the lack of what's going on with this point I'm going to make. All right. So, in the point, unless this is an important point, folks, because I see it and I see it every time. Okay, and there's all sorts of levels of it, but unless you are not affected by something that's going on that needs to be addressed, it doesn't matter to you. All right, you can be concerned about it, you could acknowledge it, but until it actually affects you, you you ain't going to do anything about it. You're not going to find out how you can help. You're not going to inquire about the details so you can learn if it does affect you at some time how to deal with stuff. Pass on the information to your family and your friends, right? Until it affects you, it attacks you personally, you and your family. It ain't gonna mean a damn thing to nobody, right? It's a true statement, people. All right? You don't have the time, right? Because once it attacks you, a situation addresses you, and you don't want to address that situation, then everything has changed. Your time is no longer free. Okay? If it takes away your time for breathing every day, and you have to deal with this situation, then it means the world to you. All right, you'll do anything to try to resolve this situation. And my point being in this, in that statement, is that what comes around goes around, people. Right? What affects, depending on the situation, what affects one usually affects a community of people, whether you know it or not. Because in my situation, okay, mine's a leadership neglect case where leadership is wanting to disconnect themselves from dealing with my case. All right, so that says a lot about who I am dealing with. That says a lot about who these people are. Just because you're working for an organization and you're hiding behind the policies and procedures does not mean that it reflects on you personally. There's a certain point. There's a certain point in time where you have to acknowledge that whatever you're not wanting to deal with because of policies and procedure, that it really does affect people. It's affecting people in the worst ways. Okay? And it's true. That's what life was about. All right, you have to have some moralities. You have to use your education that you have to help. Okay, because a lot of times when you help somebody else, you're helping yourself. You just don't know it. I like to control my surroundings. Okay, I have a high anxiety issue, what they call post-traumatic, where I get very nervous when I know my surroundings are unstable. All right. Now, what I mean by that is that, if I see that I'm in danger and nothing's being done about it, then I get very, very nervous, and most people do. But I have a high awareness of it, and it bothers me. And so my anxiety level is always on. It's always on. All right, because of the trust of people. And with what's going on with me, I have trusted people less and less. And I don't mean, I do mean, and that's everybody. Okay, I do the best I can to go along to get along, which is what most people want to do. In life, just in life in general. Right? So I want to free the brain. Free the brain. That's a brain right there. Yep. Well, how do I do that? So all my podcasts, I'm advocating for myself to try to get people aware that I'm dealing with a leadership problem. That what I'm trying to successfully engage in, I'm being discredited for. Yeah, it's just like a slap in the face. It's like, hey, and no one, and I mean no one, that has the power, that has the leadership position, that has the leadership responsibilities, is addressing it. That 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 right there alone, people, is that's unheard of. Okay, I called one time to the advocacy office in Tucson, VA, because everybody wants to send me to the advocacy office. If I have a problem, oh, go to the advocacy office. Everything's pawned off to the advocacy office. And so here I go to the advocacy office, and I'm trying to explain to them that I'm not being addressed, that my medical issue is being swept under the rug, and this is what I need. So if you ever, I don't think most people understand what the advocacy office is in the Veterans Health Administration. So where does all this for me end? When does it actually start to be followed through with and deemed what it is? Okay, if you guys haven't got the if y'all haven't understand what my case is, then you're not alone, because the same people that I'm trying to have address my medical disability also doesn't know what I'm actually wanting. That's the excuse, right? That's the excuse. Well, I don't exactly know what you're trying to claim, Sergeant De Leon. I don't understand. As though I have not explained myself in full throughout the 8 to 10 years that I've been dealing with this disability. Not to mention the fact that it's an obvious disability just by looking at me. Why can't you move your legs? I mean, people, I literally got, when I go in to see somebody to this day, they ask me, why can't you move your legs? And these people have already been well dedicated to their job in the VA, right? They have my medical records. They can pull up any time. But the question is, why can't you move your legs? How long has that been? They tell me. Right? So it's like they stall me. It's like a lawyer. They put me in this litigation of trying to explain myself. So I'm tied up with trying to explain myself all this time. Whereas all I really need is somebody to follow through with my situation at this point in time. Right? It's a delay, 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 and I get nowhere. And that's part of the problem of why I'm sitting where I am. And I tell you another thing, people. All right, I'll tell you another thing. It has been fascinating to learn the intention of people, people's intentions. All right, I've learned a lot. I didn't have to go to school for it. I didn't have to learn a master's degree. Learn about people and business, people and medical, people and just life, about their intentions. I learned it by the experience that I'm going through with the VA. Yep. And so it's been difficult. But so, one of my main points is that, I'm going to play a little guitar for you because People like to be entertained, you know? Entertainment to people is a learning experience. If you are not entertained, then you are not interested. There's always a level of entertainment, people. Always. No matter how serious the situation is. Because that to you would be something that you feel is part of your life. Is like something like, oh, it's important to you. It's very a learning experience. If you don't have entertainment, then you're in a rut. Then something's wrong. You're not interested anymore in what's going on around you. And people take it that way. Absolutely. You know? So I'll explain to you guys a little bit of how I'm able to play guitar with my disability. Okay? After I play this little tune to entertain you guys, then you'll understand what I have to deal with every day. Okay? Every day, people. Not some of the time, not part of the time, but every single day. Okay? Y'all like that, don't you? I know you do. Shit, yeah, you like it. You know? So, with that entertainment, it gets your attention, right? You're like, hey, that's freaking cool, man. You know, I'm able to live life. Right? You're like, so what's wrong with you then? If you can do that, then why aren't you a happy fella? Right? Why do you need the help you're asking for? You see what I'm saying? So every day, people, every single day, I have to deal with the disability that is being medically neglected through the Veterans Health Administration. Okay? I have to try to find a way to be happy every single day. Now, some of you guys think that's impossible. Free the brain. My brain is in a state of depression. Okay? It's in a state of depression. It's not like your brain where you're like, you have any ailments, you're able bodied. You're all concerned about being entertained. If you're not entertained, then it isn't fun anymore. It isn't fun around here. I'm not interested. Right? So, my brain is in a state of hurt, depression, whatever it is that it has a TBI. So things that are functioning normal in your head are not functioning normal in this skull right here. All right? I'm able to do things because I'm charismatic. I have to make time and acknowledge that I need to be more charismatic. You think I just get up in the morning and I have this charisma? I'd rather not be on these posts to try to get the attention I need. I'd rather not. I'd rather be, out doing something more important that I find interesting, that I'm able to do to help myself, help my family, than be on this shit right here. Talking about I need help and nobody's helping me. So in this, I need to entertain some people, right? It's with our politicians. Unless our politicians are not entertained, then they're going to follow the SOP by ignoring my complaints because, it's just another complaint that a veteran has. All these veterans, But if I'm special at entertaining them and trying to get their attention, they're going to acknowledge that, maybe this guy does have a TBI and I need to pay more attention to him. Right? And that, folks, is a reality of how we operate these days. All right? We have Google these days, Dr. Google. We have all the stuff at our fingertips. And we feel as though if it's not something that's uniquely interesting, then you're going to be put in the general bucket. And that's where I've been put. Even though I have a serious dysfunctional motor dysfunction that has been eating my body up. But yet, I cannot get someone, our elected officials is what I'm talking about, to help me with their responsibilities with the power they have. That's a responsibility, people. When you have power, that's a responsibility. Okay, you just can't be given power and people say, yeah, you do what you want to with it. Whether if it hurts people, that's okay. If it doesn't hurt people, that's okay too. If you do nothing with it, that's okay. That is a false perception of responsibility. When you are put in a position of responsibility, it needs to be exercised. And if you have it, then you're going to use it. And people like myself are trying to access that responsibility because it is power. It is the gate. You are the gatekeepers of moving me forward because I can't do that myself. I'm subject to the organization at which I am trying to benefit from. And when you talk about benefits, then it becomes an issue. Right? So we pick and choose, people. We pick and choose when we have the responsibility. Our elected officials, they pick and choose what's important and what's not important. So I have an issue with a lot of things, but my disability every day, people, I'm talking about every day, until it happens to you, it's not going to be a concern. Okay? Now, there are reasons why I'm doing these posts every day now. It's not just because I feel like I need to get this attention. Part of it is I need to entertain. I need to entertain my subject. I need to entertain that, hey, look, this guy is trying to get attention, and I guess, looking at a video is entertainment enough. I could be silent about the whole thing. Where would I get with that right now? I would get nowhere. I would die with this TBI, and the narrative would not benefit my family. And since it is a crucial issue, I'm trying to point out that the people that hold this responsibility to help me are sandbagging. Some of them have the information, but the powers that be that inform them, their 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 policies and procedure to acknowledge these things is all dependent on who's going to push it to them. So in other words, if I call the front desk and I want to talk to Kirsten Sinema, our senator, if that person at the front desk just gives them a note, a sticky note, with no words, no nothing, what do you think that senator is going to do? Now, if that person at the front desk gives Kirsten Sinema a holler and says, "Hey, here's some information, man," and expresses their concern, then you're going to get a little bit more attention. All right? So if you think for one moment that your elected officials are there for your interest, you're wrong. Okay? You're wrong. They're just people. And if it benefits them, I'm trying to give them this information because I feel as though that's more than a feeling. But I'm trying to get my elected officials to acknowledge my situation because I do believe it will benefit one of these politicians to address my issue. I really do. How can it not? Oh, veteran is being mismanaged, medically neglected through the VA. No matter what the excuse is, medically discredited. Wouldn't that be something to fight for? I mean, just for the benefit of addressing it. Wouldn't it? Like a politician grabs it and be like, this is this will be a great subject for me to have under my belt. Why don't you guys, you politicians, actually look into whether I am talking a bunch of bullshit or I have a real situation and then move on with it. And I can tell you right now, I'm being medically neglected through the Veterans Health Administration. I've been dealing with this for 8 to 10 years, people. I literally have engaged with doctors who have looked at me and has discredited the importance of it. Look, I just had a tooth pulled from the top of my mouth because it was going bad. So I'd rather not deal with it and deal with all this back and forth crap. Just pull the damn tooth, I said. I got more important things to deal with than try to maintain a schedule. And so one of the reasons why I'm able to use the dental at the VA because I have fought for the privilege to have dental at the VA. I'm telling you guys, I am absolutely informing everyone out there, all you taxpayers that are paying for the VA, everything that I have acquired, people, everything, not one thing has been given to me just by acknowledgement that I have an issue. I have literally had to fight for every single thing that I have right now through the VA, every benefit, every single benefit. Being able to use the dental, you have to have a certain status to use the dental, or you have to pay for it. Well, I acquired that status because I had to teach people that this is where my situation is and I deserve to be in there. And so I got it some time ago. Did I have to go to school for that? No, I did not. But boy, I sure do know how to do it, though, don't I? Am I getting paid for it? No, I do receive a pension from the VA, but that, folks, again, I have fought for. Well, you're supposed to fight for it. That's your job as a. Okay, I understand that. At what level, though? At what level does it become a war? At what level does it become you battling the narrative instead of the actual action? Right? I have to convince people at the Veterans Health Administration that this is what's going on with me and this is what I need. This is my situation. I'm a combat veteran. This is what I do all the time, people. This is what I do all the time. Okay, every time I have to explain myself. Now, you would think that my records are self explanatory. You would think that looking at me is self explanatory. Right? I'm the same person that goes in there every single time. I'm, the VA is not just some organization where they're getting a different veteran every single day, according to what their records say. I'm the same person. But they treat me like I'm different every single time. They ask me the same damn question. Why can't you move your legs? I just saw you a month ago and I explained to you my situation, my critical situation. It's not just a situation, it's a critical matter. It's not going to change, people. It's not going to change. But the belief in these people, it's all they're doing is sandbagging. They're just delaying their response because they have no means to move forward with this thing. I'm not with the right people. So if I'm going to be struggling with that, why don't they just throw me in the department that I'm supposed to be in, right? Dealing with TBIs and spinal cords and all that. I'm not in that department, people. Why don't they just throw me in there and that way I address them? And that way I don't have to have all these people sandbagging about, well, how do I move you forward? I don't know how. Well, there's a thing here where a doctor says you don't have a TBI. But why? So you don't have to deal with all that if I am put in the right department, right? But I'm not allowed in the right department, people, because the narrative is I'm not a credible TBI client. That can has been being kicked down the road. All right, let me share this experience with you. Okay, I'm gonna share this experience with you. I had to fight for I get Social Security. Okay, I had to fight to get Social Security, so I had to get an attorney. Right? You know those attorneys you see on TV help me help, and I was already losing motor function in both legs, and I put it all together of how I'm feeling, what's going on, and I knew that I'm going to have some serious issues with this disability. So I figured, well, let's give it a shot because I definitely need the resources. I need the care. I need wheelchairs. And this progression is not going to stop. Okay, I educated myself in TBIs, some that are progressive, some that are not, all these things. I've been educating myself. So I'm trying to teach these people that I see every day. Right? I am. I'm teaching people that have responsibilities that are supposed to be helping me. All right. So I had to get an attorney to get my Social Security, and when I did, and I acquired the Social Security, I called one time to the VA, and I don't remember what the situation was. But obviously, it's pertaining to my my motor dysfunction, right? So I called and I argued with, I don't remember if it was a nurse or somebody in the administrative office It's when I deal with people, I'm always dealing with somebody that is going against me. So I had to explain to this person that, hey, look, I belong in this program because, I have, Social Security, I have, a disability. How can you not relate this to my status so I can be in these programs through the VA? This person that got back with me said, well, you had to get a lawyer to do it. So it wasn't the VA that allowed you to get the Social Security. So you're not eligible to be in the program. Can you guys believe that? And to this day, I am still not eligible because of the way I did it. Now, you know that there's a fault in that, people. And that was years ago. And now that I have passed that situation as far as being worse, getting worse, um, obviously, I know I could have waited for 5 years to get the Social Security, but I need it then. And thank God that God has helped me, and I God is helping me to learn what my situation is, so I can teach other people, so they can. I need to motivate them. I need to entertain them, like I just got through playing the guitar, right? I got your attention. So I teach these people, and they end up swallowing their foot, because now I can obviously, it's difficult to get your Social Security unless you're an illegal immigrant and you come across and you need all these resources and people feel bad for you, and they find a way to get you through. Right? They find a way. And that's part of the problem with what's going on now, people. Do you want to live in a society where people are treating me like this, in which they will be treating you that way? What makes you different from me? Right? As far as being a United States citizen. The only thing that matters right now is the amount of people that the government has to deal with. If there was only 5 people in your community, what comes around goes around, people. Eventually, if it's a negative thing and it doesn't affect you, you're not going to be interested in it. But eventually, out of 5 people, it's going to hit you, right? And so, what are the odds? Right. What are the odds? So, in my case, in the case now, you have to deal with millions and millions of people. So, what are going to be the odds that come out favorably to you when you apply for your Social Security? What are going to be the odds? Probably going to get it, right? And there's not going to be a problem. So, you see, people, I'm being mistreated through the VA. And I'm not being beaten on, they're not throwing me in shackles, but I'm being mistreated administratively and medically. I'm not being given the proper treatment per SOP. So what would you guys call that? What do you call it? And they acknowledge that I have a motor dysfunction. They acknowledge it. So that right there, people, is an intentional. It's intentional, right? Because the higher up, since they acknowledge it, everything below it is what? What do you call it? Right. So a lot of the people underneath that narrative and underneath that decision, most of them don't even know. And they don't need to know, because they're peons. They're the people that deal with giving you the MRI. They're the nurses that have to wipe your butt, right? So they don't know. And if it is addressed to them like me, I have to go in every single time. What are they going to do? There's nothing they can do. So I went and got this tooth pulled, right? And while I got it pulled, I was wishing that it wouldn't affect me like the other one they pulled. They pulled the bottom one, and at the same place, and I lost the ability to move part of my jaw. It looks like I had a stroke, right? Well, the top one I had really addressed. I mean, I followed through with trying to get with this organization, this dental place, to say, look, I really need somebody to acknowledge that I have this situation, because the VA will not advocate for me. They believe I do not have an issue. Even though the VA acknowledges it, they don't forward the information because it's not an acceptable diagnosis for them to pass it on. So I get worse as something happens with it. That's a fault, people. That's irresponsible. So I had addressed it, and I said, can you please be extra careful? I'm advocating for myself. The VA will not forward the information because they don't believe that I'm going through this situation and I have a legitimate motor dysfunction with my central nervous system. So I'm advocating for myself. Can you believe that, people? I actually have to do that. So I go in, and the doctor acknowledges that I'm going through this situation. So she sat me down before we went in and said, well, would you like to take that tooth out today, or we can reschedule it and I can really think about how to help you? And I said, well, what is it that you need to do? What's the extent? And we went through it, and I said, no, let's pull it today. So the doctor actually pulled the tooth, right? And it was night and day. It was a night and day experience, because the first one pulled it, I had so much pain. I mean, my back was arching on the chair that I was in. The guy had to take a break that was pulling my tooth because I was hurting so much that I couldn't sit still. Right? So in that, and this is important, the pain and just the act of pulling the tooth caused this damage. Okay, because the central nervous system in my body is dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional. It's not like dysfunctional and then it's good, and then it's dysfunctional and then it's good. No, it's continuously dysfunctional. All right, because the cells or something's going on, and it's bad. So the nerve is good. The nerve conducts in my body with EMG test. It's good. It has to be good, or I wouldn't be alive. So the nerve is good. Well, I wouldn't say good like in top grade A, 100% good. I'm just saying it operates in some way. It has to, in order to make other parts of my body function properly. Right? Your nervous system does a lot of stuff. It just doesn't move your muscles. It does a bunch of things. So she went in there and took care of it, and I had no pain. She pulled it. Everything went out fine. Right? So it takes about a day for me to recognize that I'm actually losing motor function if something happens. It takes about a day, about 24 hours. So I started having some serious headache pains and that, and I knew that I was going to lose some sort of motor function. I just don't know what it is. So they called me and they wanted to make sure that I'm doing okay, and if did something happen to you. And I didn't get with the phone call. I just missed it. But it has to at least take 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours. So what I've lost is the ability to move my head to the right at all now. I have to move my body. So I was able to, with the dysfunction, under dysfunction, I already have a dysfunction with it. With my right and left movement, I'm able to move just that much to the left and right with my head. I can't move it any more than that. I have to move my body with the movement. Well, I lost the ability to move it right completely. So if I'm sitting here and I go a little bit, I call it a quarter, but it's less than a quarter of a movement, right? Well, if I try to move right, I can't move it. I have to move my body to move it. So I lost the ability to do that with just the tooth being pulled, the action of the tooth being pulled. Right? How can you not? How can it not be affected just by the action alone? Because it's a serious operation. They got to pull, and there's a nerve there, and the nerve obviously is going to pick up on it. So, whether it has numbing medication or whatever, the nerve is still going to react to it being hurt, right? Whether you know it or not. So I pulled it, and man, this headache was killing me. I'm like, man, I couldn't get rid of it. I have Percocet, I have, ibuprofen, I have all this stuff, and it would not touch it. It would not get rid of the pain. And I thought, oh my Lord, and that is typical. That always happens when something happens to me and I lose a motor function. I always have a headache. I always have pain with it, and then it gets rid of something. That's it. That's always the way it happens to me. So I'm telling my wife, hey, I think I'm gonna lose something. And, yeah. So we're so used to it that it's like a joke now. I wonder what it's gonna be. Make some money off this thing. I bet it's gonna be this. Oh, I won, right? It's always something. So I lost a little bit of jaw, what I call jaw power. It's to chew. I don't have the strength to chew down as hard as I used to just the other day. So when I chew, it's not strong anymore. Like I can't and tear something apart. It's more like a less strength chew. So I'm experiencing that, plus the head movement, and I don't know what else because basically I'm frankly tired of trying to assess my own disabilities, and I'm tired of not getting anywhere with telling people this is what's going on with me, and them saying, "Oh, it's all in your head." Well, it is in my head. That I'm faking it. Like, how can that be? That's impossible. So now I have more motor dysfunction and I'm living my life this way. Is that a happy life, people? Is it a happy life? Until it happens to you, you're not going to acknowledge that it's not a happy life. You're going to be as positive as you can. Hey, everything's okay. You have to be on the positive side. What the fuck would you know about being positive when you don't have anything to be positive for? That you're fighting. Oh, you got a knee pain? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you got a backache? Oh, I'm sorry. You're not dealing with a progressive motor dysfunction that's eating you away. And nobody's paying attention to it because they refuse to. And so when something happens to you, you're trying to explain to people, hey, look, it's like me seeing a UFO. Hey, I saw a UFO. Nobody's going to believe you. Right? Nobody's going to believe you. I just cannot believe. I really do, people. I cannot get it together in my head that I'm being ignored. That my situation is being tossed under the rug. That I'm being tossed to the curb. right? And it's not blatant. They're like, no, I don't want to see you anymore. No, it's indirect. It's indirect. Do you guys know what sandbagging is? When somebody sandbags on your situation or a situation. Yeah, things happen and they postpone it. They delay it. They acknowledge it, but under their responsibilities that they think they're doing right, they will not act on it. So that way it just keeps being pushed down the road, so that they think later it will be addressed somehow. That's sandbagging. All right, and that's where I'm being placated. Where people are saying, yeah, we acknowledge that you have something going on, Sergeant De Leon. We just can't understand what it is. Is that an answer? Is that the answer? So I have to live my life with your guys' medical opinion saying, because you don't understand, I have to live this way. Unfreaking believable. This is beyond believable, you guys. This is beyond it. And again, like I said, unless you guys are not entertained and it doesn't affect you directly or indirectly, as a matter of fact, you guys are not going to acknowledge how serious the issue is. You're not. That's the truth of it, people. You can barely acknowledge if something does happen to you or your family and you need to address a situation. You barely acknowledge that. Oh, it needs to be taken care of. Oh yeah, well let's take care of it. It's difficult, people. It's difficult to give your time to something that doesn't affect you as an individual personally. It can affect your family, but you do the best you can to help. So I have to battle the entire organization of the Veteran Health Administration. I have to battle them. Yeah. And I've been doing a damn good job of it, I tell you that much. If there's anybody that can teach another person about how to address the VA, it's me. I would be an expert at creating programs and doing all sorts of stuff with the VA if they would hire me to do that specifically. Not just we need to make the VA better. What can you do for us? No, specifically. I would be that person. Absolutely. Because it's just not about being disgruntled. It's just not about being treated. I'm dealing with attitudes. I'm dealing with people's intentions. I'm dealing with sandbagging people whose our responsibilities. What are what's the goal for them to address my? I mean, I'm dealing with a bunch of things all at one time. Community resource. Oh yeah, and not to mention community resource, people. Not to mention community resource. You know, I have not been applied to um, accept, or how not accept, but the application for these wounded warrior resources out in the community besides the VA I'm not applicable for those organizations either. I'm not. So, for instance, let's go for the example. Let's go for the example. Wounded Warrior Program. I mentioned it the other day. They need to change their narrative in which they say we don't. The Wounded Warrior Program doesn't leave a soldier behind. They need to get rid of that statement because I am being left behind, whether they like it or not. Well, you're not getting left behind by the Wounded Warrior Program. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, we went through a transition, so anything in the past that you've been dealing with is all new now. So we're a whole new organization. So it's like it don't matter. You're still the Wounded Warrior Program, and the responsibility comes along with you. You can't just keep changing your organization so you can get rid of people and it doesn't apply to those people anymore. You can't do that. I'm the same person with the worst disability now that you guys are trying to address and ignore to address it. I'm still the same person. You guys can put a different pair of pants on, but I can't. So what happens? Well, that's the excuse, people. And that's the same with the VA. The VA can sit there and say, "Well, that wasn't the same doctor that we had, so we have to start over." Do you see what I'm saying? A bunch of sandbagging, a bunch of placating, a bunch of everything like that. And I have to do it. People, it's a struggle. Like I'm saying, it doesn't affect you personally. I'm not talking about your whole family. I'm talking about you personally. It does not affect you. If it does not affect you, then it's not important. If it does not affect you personally, then it's not of interest. Okay, but it's a critical situation yet. Right? That's why we have a problem with Joe Biden in the House. Because I will never forgive Joe Biden for basically one issue. I have one big issue with Joe Biden. And it's a serious matter. The 13 soldiers that died in Afghanistan for when they were trying to exit Afghanistan at the airport, they died. So then I look at, well, why did they die? Well, people, we've been dealing with Iraq and Afghanistan for some time. Some time. Things have been put in place of how, who, what, when, where, and why. How to deal with that against our enemies or just people in general in Afghanistan. What is the SOP in dealing with people in Afghanistan? No matter where you are, you could be on base, off base, here, there. What's the SOP? What have we learned over the years of dealing with securing our soldiers? What is the SOP? You tell me what the SOP is. It's simple. We've been doing it for years. You have to have extra precaution. You have to have barriers. You have to have borders. You have to have all these things. That's an operation. You don't negate it. It's not negated if you're moving. It doesn't spell a whole different operation. It doesn't spell something different. It's still our responsibility to take extra precaution, do the SOPs, put up borders, put up, how you operate. You have to have some sort of protection. You have to have some sort of operation. But that's not what happened, people. And I will never forgive him for that. And the rest of the world shouldn't either. The rest of the world, minus the United States should be furious about it. The generals, whoever it was that allowed these people to be openly, openly able to access their health, their lives, because they were moving out of Afghanistan. That's not an excuse, people. Every single operation has to be put in action. Hey, you are not allowed to go past this barrier. And if you do, that's your own ass. These people were allowed to go off and about and expose their lives so they could be taken, and it was taken. I know if I was an enemy, I'm looking for the chance for somebody to make a mistake. I'm looking for the chance, and that's what's happening with me, people. Okay? That's what's happening with me. It's like every time I'm dealing with somebody, they're acting as though it's a new situation, but none of the responsibilities are being brought in with them. The same responsibilities. Hey, yeah, so we're going to try to follow through with this situation with your TBI, but since I'm seeing somebody new or some new operation, or I'm going to a new department or something, it's like I have to start over. And so sandbagging starts. It's like they're delaying the reason to treat me and to move me forward. And there's a lot of reasons for that, people, but most of them are reasons of neglect. They neglect. And since these people are like, well, it's not my problem that you guys are mismanaging his medical case, I'm going to do what you guys tell me to do. It's still putting me in jeopardy, people. I'm not getting the care I need. So where does it stop? When does somebody actually be responsible for my case? When? The politicians, I've been reaching out to them, people. I've been reaching out to them. I have. You guys don't believe me? I've been reaching out to them. And like I said, I'm no longer pouring my heart out because it doesn't mean anything. And I'm trying to get through to these politicians to make a more of a point that it affects them. All right, that's why I'm saying entertaining is one of the tactics you use to try to entertain people, because it captures their attention. So unless Kirsten Sinema, who I've been trying to address lately, unless she's affected somehow by my situation, I'm not gonna be addressed properly with concerning my medical case, concerning the degree of my medical issue. You guys see my point? I'm not going to be addressed. There's not going to be any concern because it doesn't affect her. Right? But until I can do that, I'm trying to find a way. Then she will acknowledge that my medical disability is serious. It's freaking serious, man. You know? You guys don't have any idea. I get up when I go to bed. I have trouble going to bed sometimes. I have all these issues because of this TBI. Things that I don't know what's going on with me. I have high blood pressure, that goes wacko. I got blood glucose, that goes wacko. My pancreas went wacko. All these things are affecting me. But yet, no one wants to connect the dots. I can complain all day about there's a reason why my pancreas is so sensitive. Well, I wonder why. Why? Instead, they're isolating the issue as though the pancreas is doing this thing on its own. Right? And then people think, well, it's possible. It's possible. Everything's possible, people. But what's the most obvious reason I'm having pancreatitis? What's the most obvious reason? My central nervous system. Ding, 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 ding. If you check that box, you're right. I'm not going to second guess myself, people. That's what's going on. When do we start to acknowledge our responsibilities? They're not. They're sandbagging. It's a sandbag mission. To sandbag Sergeant De Leon until Sergeant De Leon dies. He's susceptible to a stroke, people. Sergeant De Leon retired is susceptible to a stroke. Well, why do you say that? Because I'm smarter than you. That's why. I know my body. I know what's going on. How can I not be susceptible to a stroke if I have a central nervous system dysfunction? All I need is something to happen to me, my pancreatitis to explode, and then I can go into a coma. I can go into a stroke and a coma and die. Something will happen, people. It will happen. But at what point will it happen? Well, I shouldn't be concerned about that. I should try to free the brain and live my life as much as I can, but I can't do that because I don't have the benefits, I don't have the resource, I don't have the medical management that I need. But I can't convince somebody because it doesn't affect them. And the VA sandbagging their way through my process. Right? Everybody has an opinion. Well, why don't you get an attorney? Well, why don't you pay for my attorney? Well, why don't you apply for no money attorney? Well, why don't you do it for me? People, I got things in the works and I got stuff moving. But again, even attorneys have a process about going through with their mission, with something that they have to deal with. So, like my claim, it has to be looked into. When you first do something, people, we're all applicable to this. When you first do something, you basically do your general duty, your basic responsibility, right? You got to see it a certain way. You got to treat it a certain way, which is a very general thing. So if you need to put the black ball into the black bucket, there's a very basic fundamental operation to do that, right? You got to do it. Anything more specific of how you do it depends on information. And if that narrative, that information is faulty, then you have to adjust fire to that information. You got to learn: are they trying to manipulate me, or do I have to do more to try to get that ball into that box? And it all depends, people. So right now I'm dealing with very basic stuff. Like I told you, every time I address my situation, it's always a new issue. Well, why can't you move your legs? Well, have you tried applying for, the attorney, right? The attorneys, they're always asking questions. And that's good. But they're general questions. It's just like when I go to doctors always ask me the same question. So what happened? I'm dying, Doc, I'm dying. So I need more progress to happen, and I need it to happen immediately. I need things to start being put on my plate to which I could say, hey, look, that is correct. Let me help you move forward with this. Right? Because once you deal with another person, then things change for them. People don't learn. People don't change, they learn. So everything has to be applicable in the beginning. all the SOPs, all the stuff, all the standards, all the negative narratives. Everything has to be standard. And then you got to get past that. And once you get past that, then it becomes a problem, people. Then it becomes more of an issue of responsibility. Is there people who need to be accountable for what's going on? Then it becomes a problem. And that's where I'm stuck. Nobody wants to do it. They're sandbagging. I'm moving it forward past that hump. So I need a superhero to come my way, move it forward, and I guarantee you that superhero will benefit from addressing my situation. And we'll both ride off into the sunset. But until then, the gatekeepers refuse to help me. And the people are very reluctant to commit to dealing with my case. And I don't know why. You know, it's not complicated, folks. It's just an issue that needs to be sorted out a little bit, and then move forward. That's it. So there's my rant for today. God bless you guys for sticking around and hearing all my stuff. With the guitar thing, let me tell you guys how I do it. So I have trouble with my right. I mean, I have trouble with my left too, but my right's completely shot. The way I move my body parts that are dysfunctional, I have to move my body. So think about it in terms of like electricity. Okay, if you got electricity running through something, then it's active, right? It's got to be running through everything. Correct? It's running from point to point. Right? It's when you don't have that point running from A to B. It's running from A to point A.5, and then that limb or that area, there's no conduction whatsoever. You got negativity. Well, that's an issue, right? You could figure that out. Mine's running from A to B completely. Everything's running. There's no like severance. I have my legs. There's no like people who had strokes. It damaged the nerve so bad that it won't conduct through those nerves. Mine, I didn't have a stroke. I have a central nervous system dysfunction. It's in the brain that's not operational. So it's working there, right? So when I play guitar, what I do, this is a pick, right? And this is with everything I do, people. Everything, every day, I deal with it. So what I do is I have to grab my hand and I put the pick in like you're going to play it, but I push it up toward the back of my finger, which is my index finger, right? And I put the thumb on it, and then I could squeeze it down, and it could stay like that. See, I don't. It stays that way because I can't move it, but it's there. So when I play, I have to shape my body. I have to jump. You don't notice it, but I have to jump up and down, up and down, up and down to activate the central nervous system to do something with the brain to kinetically have that information go to that part of my arm, so I can kind of swing my arm a little bit, and it makes like a strumming action, right? Chung, 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 chung. And I can control some of the emotion, but it's involuntary control. So as long as it's repetitive, I can keep doing it. This hand, like I said, it moves, so I can do a little bit of moving with the fingers, and so it doesn't come out. But over time, over some seconds, it becomes uncontrollable. Where the pick, see here, I'm playing it, so it goes back and forth. It starts to slip, and then I'll lose it, and it'll go away. So I have to start over. But I do move my body, so if I want to get up and lock my knees back and stand up for a second, and my knees bow back, and I'm there just to stretch out, I have to move my body and then jump on it, lock my knees back, and do it. That's the only way it works, people. And I do that every single day. Every day. I can't. So in other words, I can't just sit without moving and just stand up voluntarily. And I don't. When I say stand up, I don't stand. I have to lock my knees back, and it creates this, symmetry of where I can, try to balance. And so if I try to do it just boop, like that, there's no way. It's got to be involuntary. Right? I have to kinetically move other parts in order to move that part. Right? Because that's the only way the information is going to get there, unless there's activity going on. That's it. That's how I operate with everything. Okay? Let's not even talk about using the restroom. Yeah, everything, people. Everything I do. So it's very difficult. It's been very difficult, and I can't wait to start address these issues. So that way, I could be in the books. So that way, if this happens to somebody else, it would be documented. Oh, we know exactly what that is. Sergeant De Leon retired was going through that. You could have a touch of that. That's what's going on. I want to help that way. Not to mention, it's going to help me. Right. All right, folks. Well, there's that, and talk to y'all later.